we have any comments, questions, or observations about such a study?
Get started.
What's that now?
How did that ever get started where the men and women was changing?
Woo! You've had homosexuality, by the way, throughout our history as humankind. But in these United States, especially this concept of gender and identity, probably going back to the 50s with Kinsey and others, and you have perversion. You have people that are, some are homosexual, some are not. They're just very confused individuals. We have the kind of insanity in some couples, so to speak, that the woman is transgendered as a man, which she's really a woman, and then the man, so to speak, is transgendered as a woman, and they're married together. It's not homosexual. Very strange. And Marxism, communism, likes this kind of an arrangement because once the family is destroyed, then their propaganda and that the society will live in such a way where God is not in the picture, no one thinks of the consequences, and you have a totally different society. And you have no way, unless revolution or something like that, and quite possibly not even that option to deal with it. So there's a lot at stake here, Judy. That's a good question. Where all this craziness begin with?
Well, I don't know enough about it or understand it enough to ask you questions.
Well, it's a thing where it's happened so quickly. We grew up in a time, and I know you did before I did, where manhood, womanhood was venerated, and you wouldn't even think of something like this. But now the snowball, so to speak, has been rolling, and we wanted to discuss this just briefly. Who are the people? Who are the players doing with this? Planned Parenthood, the United Nations.
Well, now I've heard this. I may have read it. I don't know, but I do remember it. That when a person is planning to have that done to them one way or the other, I think they have to wait about 2 years before they really have it done. Time to think about it. Probably have counseling too. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some safeguards with this, but what kind of counseling? You're either a man or you're a woman. What's wrong with that?
I guess they try to explain how they think. I don't know. That's what I say. What I know about it, I don't understand it.
Yes, I don't understand it either, Judy. Where if you're a man, why do you want to be a woman? Right? Or if you're a woman, why do you want to be a man? But the thing is when you get young children and they get to how they feel, that word, that little 4-letter word, feel, I feel this way, I feel like I'm a man, or I'm going to be a woman, or...
Yeah, they know they feel that way, but they've never been either one.
That's right. Because when they're young, they're very creative, right? And they can think like that. They do not have the ability, the maturity of consequences. So what do you have? Some of these parents running, you've seen this in the news. Oh, my little girl wants to be a boy. She wants to play football or basketball on the men's team. Or you've got this other family saying, well, my little boy, he thinks he's a princess. Right? Oh, they're in the wrong fruit bowl, y'all. As we think of these kinds of things, this is insanity. This is crazy. And they want to tell you and I how to think. And then they want to make laws to say that, well, you're bigoted and you've got this bias and you've got this hatred. No, we don't have hatred towards the souls of these people. We want to convert them. But they've got to get a little bit right in the head first, don't they, church?
If a man could be a real woman and go through what a woman goes through, he'd want to be a man again.
You got that right. You got that right.
Being a woman.
I told you our firstborn, I delivered Hannah. And that was good for me because, you know, I figured out if I had to go through that near-death experience, you know, if men had to have the same pain as a woman in childbirth, we wouldn't have folks alive. We wouldn't get much past Adam, right? There's an ability that a woman has that no one else. And the same thing with men. And we are not against one another. We are, again, codependent on one another. Yes?
Did the transgender generate from the homosexuals?
Some do, yes. Some do. But it's not always homosexual.
Homosexuals are not trying to change from one to the other. They're just choosing the same mate. The same.
Yes, you're making a point. Joan is making a point that homosexuals, they're, when it comes to gender or sex, they are attracted to the same. That's what homo means. But you do have some of this, Joan, where transgenderism is, in effect, as we think about, a malady of homosexuality. But for the most part, transgendered, they just think that they're trapped in the wrong gender. Their body's trapped in the wrong gender.
But to me, they all fit in the same category. You know, if we look at Romans 1 again, and it mentions all these sins and so forth, without natural affection. And
Women with women, men with men.
Yeah, women with women.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on to tell, you know, they don't have no regard for God. They can care less about God. And they know what they're doing, and they know they're going to end up destroyed in death, but they're so involved with their evil pleasures, their lust, and so forth. A lot of this has to do with choice.
Yes.
What we choose, and then faith.
Yes.
And if you notice, Moses over there in chapter 11 of Hebrews, by faith, Moses refused to be called son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God.
Choosing, yeah. And rather than the pleasures of sin for a season. Well, that's what these people are doing. They're choosing sin for the season. That's right. Now, let's talk about this since it was brought up about the homosexual component. There are men out there that want to go through the program and quote unquote be gender reassigned and then have laws to protect them and thinking that men are going to be attracted to them. Now, if that's not delusional, I don't know what is. Very strange, very odd. And the same thing with some of these women. Chaz, we're familiar with her. They say that it's a him, but she is a homosexual.
But you know those people that are like that?
Mm-hmm.
They look different. If
Yes.
you look at them, they look different and they act different.
Yes, if you get to know them a little bit.
Definitely.
But I've had some women that I thought were men. And I'm telling you, they look men.
Yeah, boys like a man.
It is something about them.
Wow.
I don't know.
And the more technology we have, it might be more difficult, at least from a physical standpoint. But how they think, talk, and what have you, very different. And we're talking in transgenderism. Homosexuality, we might be talking about 2 to 3% of the population. Transgenderism, we might be talking 1/10, 1/50th, 100th of 1%. And laws are being sought out by both political parties in this country. More so with the Democrats, but a lot of Republicans. And their argument is that we understand that people have rights, that we understand that we have no animosity towards our homosexual friends, our transgendered friends. But what they do and how they try to promote this with children, oh my, that has to be stopped. And this is foolishness. There's no science in this. This is perversion. And brethren, make no mistake about it, some of these problems, more so, are because this nation has turned its back against God. Very important.
The
Yes.
reason you don't have more transgenders is the finances.
Yes.
I mean, who can afford to go through all that?
And that's a reason why they wanted to go through the military, right? So people, so it would be funded by the federal government out of your pocket and out of mine and our taxes.
And I think sometimes that that's really on the extremes if you roll with life. But I think that a lot of people just roll with life and they want something different.
Well, this is different. No getting around that.
It's really different. It's really a price to pay.
Yes. And you know, we get on this discussion that there'll be people that look at that, and I get called a redneck all the time, and you know, he's just one of those old boys that crawled out from some cave, right? But there's no, when we speak about, from a biblical standpoint, when we talk about science, what is known, there's no reason why a man, like our friend Mr. Bruce Jenner, who should wake up someday and say, you know, I'm really a woman. And I want to dress like a woman. Or like some of our female friends that say, you know, I'm really a man. And I want to act like a man. And I want to look like a man. And I want to use the men's room. Oh my. And we got folks out here can't figure out which room to use, you know, and you got to, you know, answer nature's call, right? And they want to tell you and I. Wasn't it just a week or so ago there was somebody in Wyoming that was quote-unquote a man but dressed up as a woman and molested a 9 or 10-year-old girl? What happened a generation or two ago? Oh my. My. But now all of these advocacies are trying to protect this kind of foolishness. Now, we've had enough. We want our children left alone. And what will a little girl growing up and from girlhood to womanhood, she's going to want to be a woman. And a little boy, when he grows up, boyhood to manhood, what is he going to want to be? He's going to want to be a man. And you know, it's strange, isn't it? When we get to a certain age and we marry and we have a family of our own, we don't even think about craziness like this.
You know, Kaylee, my granddaughter, goes to North End Mountain School. She has a friend, and they're members of the church, and she's just told her parents that she's gay.
Oh my. Oh my.
I mean,
How old is she?
Kaylee's 16.
Right, but and her friend is...
The friend's a year older than her.
Now, you know, Joan, a lot of them, and it's strange, isn't it, when it comes to sexuality?
Well, what do the parents do? I mean, how do you deal with that?
Well, it's going to take a lot of counseling. It's going to take a lot of time with that child. You know, when we think about whether girl or boy, and there are reasons for that. It's not natural. It's not normal, right? And there are people. I've known women who were homosexuals, and they got out of that foolishness, and they married men and had children, and likewise a man or two.
We used to have a little boy came here was a homosexual. He became a member of the church. Stayed on.
Well, Gene, we're going to see some of this craziness. What do you do? A person wants to be an elder. A woman wants to be an elder and take hormonal treatment, and you don't know this. And say that I want to be an elder. Or gospel preaching. Don't worry about it, folks. I was born a man, and I still am one. Right? But what's going to happen when we have that? We need to go back to the basics. And a child, that's a choice. Homosexuality is a choice. But that takes a long time. And that's something that the whole church should be involved in. not just the preacher or the elders.
But it's like this happening in school, it just become a fad.
Yeah.
Oh, they're one, I think I'll be one.
And especially when you have young children. Or teenage years, possibly. But they do have therapy. You transition. They have blockers, adolescent blockers. But all that does is cause trouble for the body and for the psyche and the mind. And how do you fix a child that has gone through that, has been pushed toward that, and the like? That's child abuse. Child abuse. And that should not be tolerated at all. I'm sorry, I thought I saw another hand.
Along with that, Romans 1 and choices and so forth. Satan knows his outcome too, but he's not going to change.
That's right.
And people today have the same attitude. They know their outcome, but they're not going to change.
That's right. And you know, Kenneth, this is the trouble we have with homosexuality. Just one. And it's transgenderism now. When you have the country looking at this and discussing this, and then you have millions of people that are hetero, but yet choose not to marry, and they have children. Don't they have movies where there's such a great concern that an asteroid is going to come and destroy the earth? Or some Martians come down or something. And yeah, I've got a little bit of a red tint on me, but don't worry, I'm not from Mars. Don't we have movies like that? Do we realize that the practices of homosexuality do more to unravel, and that fornication and quote-unquote shacking up and having illegitimate children and then having them on the tax rolls and the like do more to destroy in real time a civilization, a society, than some perceived asteroid coming to Earth? Very important.
You couldn't have had a more divisive doctrine or practice, if you please, than we're seeing
Yes.
in our day. Because when we were growing up, we knew that little boys and girls, they knew they were different. There's no question about that. But when they reached puberty, the real difference was shown in their bodies. I mean, they had actual physical changes that proved which one they were. We'd never heard of DNA when I was growing up. The transgender thing was something that was reserved for places like Hollywood or the dark side of society. But it still existed back then. And the common sense that we used to have, even if you didn't even have the Bible, if you didn't even have Genesis talking about creation of male and female, they know they're different. And you ask a question about what we're going to do if we got, a woman dressed up and looked like a man, had the surgery, came a man to be an elder. I think it's time for show and tell. I mean, I would be in favor of show and tell, because now, hey, we're not dealing with ordinary situations here, and we're going to be accountable for such a selection that's allowed to slip into the eldership. We can't allow that to happen.
That's right.
We just not allow let things like that happen in the church, because the church is going to be pure and clean and spotless in Ephesians 5. But this subject has so many different facets to it that you can't cover it in one lesson.
No.
I mean, it's obvious to me that there's so many facets. Puberty. The fact that everything was created to reproduce after its own kind.
Yes.
Was enjoying beautiful blue jays the other day. But I've never seen a blue jay have a redbird. I've never seen anything like that happen. It just don't happen. Lions don't have tigers and so forth. You understand that?
Absolutely.
We understand that part of the animal kingdom. Then somebody said, well, what about a seahorse? What about an earthworm? They have both genders.
Because they're asexual.
Sure. And they say, well, it can happen. Well, they're freaks of nature that can happen, all right.
Yeah.
And that's what they are. They're freaks of nature.
Yes.
And they're disabilities, really, in the truest sense of the word. They're disabilities.
Let me stop you here, and you'll have the last word. Where do people get this from? They don't get it from the Bible. They don't get it from science. Some things in society, but when it's all said and done, It comes from their head. They need to get their head right. Something wrong with them. That's why we said we can't fix crazy. But that person can. You know, as we ponder such things, we can look and we can see the goings on. And they're wanting, just like through the devil, the auspices of the devil, they're wanting access to our children. They want to destroy any semblance of married life. Very important. Go ahead and have
One of the things that I've always said, God, when He created male and female, knew what He was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you do. You can have surgery on one end, but you need to have it on both ends, the head end too. Because the man has an Adam apple and a woman doesn't. Never will it be any different. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's an outward sign above the waist that God made a difference. And it's just common sense. Everybody knows anything about it. But what do the transgender and others do? Always wear a scarf to cover up the Adam's apple to fool you. And yet, it's not something that's foolable.
No.
You're going to have that changed too in surgery if you're going to be really convincing to people with common sense.
Yes.
But the thing about it is, this group of our population in our world, they're ignorant of the Bible.
Yes.
They don't believe the Bible. I don't care what the Bible says. They don't believe Bible. God
Let
said
me just
he
stop
that
here
comes
real
to
quick.
God-
I'll give you the last word. A lot of people want to say that love authorizes, right? But this is not love. Things that lead to hell and the hellfire is not love. Things that lead to wholesomeness, marriage between a man and a woman will always be between a man and a woman. In holy matrimony, Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4, he said that's good. Very important. And we can study this in ancient Greece, Rome, other places in the world. It never works. Go ahead.
Well, you really actually gave the answer anyway. Love in a marriage relationship with lust is totally acceptable. But lust without love outside of marriage is absolutely abomination. In any form, no matter how you share it, male with male, female with female.
And when you're saying lust, you're talking about desire.
Right. The desire for one creature to another.
Yes.
The desire to, have a relationship outside your own.
And we say this is normal.
Yeah, I know.
Young women are attracted to young men and vice versa. But when it comes to sexuality, it is only to be practiced in marriage. That's the only appropriate container. And it brings forth enrichment, good things. And then when you start adding to, taking away, modifying, and the like, it just unravels and it brings destruction and misery.
Marriage is honorable and a bit undefiled. That's right. But again, if you don't believe the Bible, it doesn't matter.
Well, a lot of people don't believe the Bible, but they see how it works. And the same thing in families, their mom and dad. And that's another thing. And since you're on the subject, we'll just take a moment. You can't have a strong family and go to the casino. Can't have a strong family and bring forth, and I've seen men and women buy it, whether it be gin, whether it be beer, or the like. And even though that some states, quote unquote, legalize marijuana, an hallucinogen, an intoxicant, you can't have a strong family and practice and be a practitioner. It takes work, and it's natural, normal for men and women to marry, to stay married. And that's a good thing. And in privacy, of course, but being married. And this is a good thing. Everything else is of the devil. Everything else brings forth destruction. And there are a lot of people hurting, but what they'll do is they'll bring the very things that will harm their family into their home. Very important. And then they'll hear some burr-headed preacher like myself, and they'll say, well, he doesn't know how to have fun. He's one of these people that's a Bible thumper. And no! I don't know about you, and I'm sure we're on the same page, getting your brain pickled every other day or every weekend, that's not fun. Throwing up in your shoes or on yourself, that's not fun. But when we talk about marriage, privacy, and the like, God has made that institution where we get meaning in life and that we help one another and the like. Now that's different. But it's only one place. Any other thoughts, comments, or observations?
And you better be be aware of who you hang around with, because that's the way a lot of that starts. Because I seen that back when I was in school.
Mm-hmm.
A person I know of that changed a lot of people's lives and ruined lives, and it's still going on.
Yes.
Back then.
Yes, Beverly brings up a good point. It's a biblical concept. Bad morals corrupt good folks. Isn't that right? Very important. Yeah, we need to discuss some more of this, and again, we wanted to do it publicly, but there are forces, agendas that want access to our children, and we better not give it to them. Better not. So if we're in a school system and the NAMBLA, that's the North America Love Boy Association, that's right, bunch of perverts, like Mr. Kinsey and the like. Pedophile, they belong in prison. Oh, dare I say, back in the day, they used to execute people. I'm talking about the state, of course. And what's wrong with that? We shouldn't be living and having burglar bars in our homes. The people that cause trouble are the ones that should be behind bars. Isn't that right, church? And the government shouldn't be prosecuting people who are doing that which is right. In Romans chapter 13, they are to be prosecuting the evildoer. And this, not only is it crazy, stupid, it's also evil. Very important. Any other thoughts, comments, or observations?
You know, the Bible said there would be a time when men would call right wrong and wrong right. And I think maybe in that deal of trying to, if we ever get to that point, which it may be true now, but somebody serving as an elder that's, something other than a male, maybe a DNA test is going to be required by the church. Because you're not going to beat that one. I mean, a DNA test is going to tell you what they're male or female every time. I don't care what surgery you've had.
That's
you
right.
have all the transfusions in the world. And you're still going to be whatever your DNA said you were when you were conceived by mother and dad.
I agree with that, Jim. As we close, even though we have error in the world, truth is easy to find. And this is a matter where it really doesn't take a great deal of thought, work, and the like. Men should be men, women should be women, and children should be protected. And it's so important, as we think in the church, we cannot have a society, a culture apart from family. We can't have churches apart from family either. So yes, I'm not worried that any one of us is kind of thinking, I'm not sure. No. There's no science. There's no Bible. There's no common sense. And all you got is crazy. And with crazy, you cannot be armed with the truth. Very important. Thank you very much. And those of you in the viewing audience, we hope that you take paper in hand, Bible in hand, look and some of these references about the UN and about Planned Parenthood. We hope that you take the opportunity. Thank you very much.